Hello everyone, it's Angie here from AA Travels. Thank you so much to all of you who've subscribed to my channel. I hope you're sharing it with others. I plan to make more content that's going to be really relevant to you, starting today with the 5 mistakes that I've made when booking travel. Before I get started though, if you have made a mistake booking travel, will you put that in the comments? I'll just wait a minute. Okay, thank you. All right, so look at what other people have put as well and see if you've made those same mistakes, and maybe you've made the same mistakes as I have, which is what I'm going to share with you today. So my first mistake that I've made is I've bought the cheapest flight. Now, could this be good? Sometimes it is. I fly Southwest a lot. A lot of times they have the cheapest flights. I've flown a lot of budget airlines in Europe, and so many of these come out to be the cheapest, but sometimes they don't end up being the cheapest when you add all of the things the extra fees that they add. So, like for example, a lot of people might be mad right now about Southwest. They're charging for bags now. So you buy the ticket, but then you also have to pay for your bag. If any of you have flown Spirit, you probably know that pain. So extras are going to cost you more money when you book the cheapest flight. Also, you may have time issues, like I want to get there at 4 o'clock when the resort opens or when I can check in, but this flight leaves at 6 and it's a really good deal. Well, now I'm not going to get there till 10 or 11 or 12, and I just lost like a whole night at the resort. So you want to make sure that it's worth the value to you of losing that time in your destination so that you can get that cheaper flight. Or sometimes they're really early in the morning and then you got to figure out what to do with all your stuff until you can check into your hotel. So make sure that you're checking into those things, because booking a cheap flight does not always end up being the cheapest thing to do. So, and sometimes you have a layover too, and then you may end up getting delayed on the first flight or the second flight, and then maybe even overnight, and you lose a night in your destination. So really think about, when you look at the cheapest flights, make sure that they fit what you want for your vacation and not just because it's the cheapest flight. Second thing I've done, once again trying to be cheap, I've booked a hotel that was the best deal. Well, sometimes hotels are great deals, and you see a hotel and you're like, man, I can't believe this is such a good price. So I'll book it using like one of the big search engines, booking.com or something like that. And then I realized, I shouldn't have done this, because I have loyalty to certain hotels. I have status in certain hotels. So I could lose out on some of the upgrades, some of the benefits of being a member at a hotel that has a loyalty program. If I go to this one-off hotel, I'm not earning any points towards my other hotels. So a lot of times that's not the best option for you. It's not been my best option sometimes, and you get what you pay for. So a lot of times the cheapest hotel, you're not going to have comfortable beds, and you may not have the best amenities, lose out on some of those perks that you would get if you went through a loyalty program that you already have. So booking the cheapest hotel, not the best idea always. Sometimes it's great, but once again, if you're using points and you're part of loyalty programs, you can probably get a good deal and stay in a nicer place. The third mistake I have made is going to a city, and I plan to use the public transportation, because I don't know about you guys, but I love public transportation. Anytime I'm traveling, I'd much rather do that than drive. So if I'm planning to use public transportation, and I don't think about that when I book my hotel. So you really have to pay attention, because if you book a hotel and it's on the outskirts of the city, you may not have a bus or a train near your hotel, and then you're going to end up spending a bunch of money in Lyfts and Ubers, and that's something that you weren't planning to spend. You were planning to spend $2 a ride, and now you're spending $20 a ride. So you really got to think about that when you're booking a hotel. A lot of times what I do is I find the hotel address, I'll go to Google Maps, I pop it in, and then I see how far is the closest transit, so that I know if I'm going to be able to make that work. It will save you money if you look at that in the long at the front. My fourth biggest mistake, and this is because of how I like to travel. I plan my flights, I plan my hotels. I do not like an itinerary. I hate it, actually. I don't like to have a lot of things planned out. I like to go, wake up in the morning, see how I feel, maybe walk around, see what I see. I'm not a big, like, I have to do all these things while I'm here. So because of that, though, I missed out on some of those things I really wanted to do. So, for example, I went to Paris. I was there for a very short amount of time on a group trip, and I really wanted to see the Louvre, but I didn't buy a ticket in advance. I just thought, I'll be able to get one when I get there. And the line was like so long, and I would have wasted almost my whole day waiting in line just to get a ticket to go in the Louvre. So I just saw the outside, missed the inside. Maybe I'll go back one day, I don't know. But I missed out on that experience. Also, I was recently in New York City. I really wanted to see Just in Time, Jonathan Groff's new show, but I didn't buy tickets in advance. So I get there and I'm like, sold out. The cheapest tickets were on like resale and they were very expensive. So I didn't go see that show. And maybe it won't be there again when I go back to New York. So, you know, like you miss out on some experiences. If it's a big thing and you know it's rare and it's unique and it's something that a lot of people are going to want to go to, you might want to plan those things in advance. I know some of you are thinking, I plan everything in advance. That's good for you then. You won't miss it out. You won't miss out on those. You won't make my mistake. Lastly, and this one may be new to some of you if you don't use a lot of credit cards, but my last mistake is I've booked travel through the credit card travel portal. So every credit card has this portal within your account where you can book travel straight through them. And they try to make it look really good, like you get bonus points and things like that. But the value of what you are getting from that travel portal is minuscule compared to if you transfer those points to a partner program. And I'll go in depth with this later in another video, but if you want to transfer your points, you will get a lot more value, and you'll have to learn which companies are able to transfer to from which credit cards, because all credit cards don't have the same transfer partners. But it's usually a lot better value if you are booking through transferring instead of through the travel portal. So for example, if I go to American Express and I log in my account, they have a place where you can book hotels, you can book tours, you can book flights, you can book all kinds of things in there, and you use your points. Well, if I take those points though and I go to transfer to a travel partner, I could transfer to another airline and most likely get a higher value on those points. So that's probably been, at least in the last few years, the biggest mistake I've made, and I won't make it again. And so hopefully those of you who are thinking about using credit cards for travel will consider that, and we can talk about that in future videos, and I'll try to teach it a little bit better than just talking about my mistakes today. But thank you guys so much for sticking with me on these 5 mistakes I've made. Maybe you've made the same ones. Let me know in the comments. I would love to commiserate with you, and hopefully we can both learn to be better with our travel planning. And I'm gonna go into depth on all of these mistakes and how we can do a better job. So if you want, you can click right here and watch my next video on why it's not always good to buy the cheapest flight. Have a good night.